Welcome back, everybody. This is the third video of the series. I suggest starting at the beginning, but if not, you can hang with us. What we have here is a test area we picked out, and we do have some polishes and a polisher and some pads that we can team up together. We're going to start with the least aggressive avenue first. We want to remove as little clear as possible on this newer car. So we'll start with the Sonax cut and finish and a Lake Country hybrid wool pad here on the rotary. If we need to, we can bump up aggression. We have Sonax Cut Max waiting in the wings. We can get a more aggressive pad if we need to, but let's give this a shot first. For the correction starts, you always want to pick out a test area and give your first combination that you picked out a shot, see how it's going to work out. See if you need to bump up, add some more aggression with either a pad or a different polisher or even the polisher compound itself. You also want to test a clear coat. Sometimes the owner may have ordered a tinted clear or maybe a diamond coat. So check your pad, check the test area, and see what you're working with. Get some tactical feedback as you're polishing, not just visual, but sort of use your hands and your arms and get a feel of what the polisher and the pad are telling you. To be more specific, as I'm watching what I'm doing, I'm feeling that the rotary gets a little grabby with that panel at times, and that's going to tell me to add one or two more little drops of the product onto the pad, give me some more lubrication, as I add normally 3 or 4, but I'll just bump that up to maybe 5, and we should be good to go here. We don't want to put too much on the pad. That's going to get the pad to hydroplane and push it away from the panel, and you won't get an effective cut. We'll wipe away the residue. I'll remove the tape. I'll grab you guys, bring you in close, and we'll see if that indeed is perfect for what we're looking for, or we need to bump up aggression. And that will work out. That will be fantastic. That removes the micro marring and the love marks underneath, and the little bit of hazing that's left over, we'll take care of that in the polishing step. And that's good news. We don't have to bump up aggression. We don't have to go to a microfiber pad or a more aggressive wool pad. We don't have to go to a more aggressive cutting pad, an extra cut pad. So we're not going to really be removing a lot of clear coat, and that is great news for this car. Let's pause, a timeout or sidebar, so to speak. I want to show you the importance of being able to use those Lake Country wool pads. This is a microfiber, and I'm only holding the polisher and letting the weight of it be the down pressure or the downforce on top of it. And we are exceeding in those areas 105 degrees, where the room temperature or the temperature where we started was, 63 degrees? So it's really spiking, and that's a lot of stress on the clear coat. Now let's switch over to Lake Country wool pads. It has a lot of airflow in between the surface and the pad itself, keeps temperatures down while doing the cutting. And as I put the instrument there and take the reading, you can see we are well within the 20 degrees that I like to keep the normal temperature of the panel and the area we're working on. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, get in contact with me. I'll go into greater detail. When the temperatures spike, there's a lot of flexing going on between the 3 layers of the primer, base coat, and clear coat, and that's where you want to avoid failure. Okay, back to the job at hand. I'm going to continue on. I'm now to the back lid, and what we have in this car is mostly just micro marring and love marks. No really deep scratches, not a ton of nicks to take care of. So this really here is a piece of cake for me. Polisher, as usual, will be on the 3rd speed setting. Not a ton of pressure on the polisher itself, not a lot of downforce, just guiding the polisher. Arm speed, once the product is spread out, is an inch every second or 2. And you'll take notice, since the adjustment of the amount of product to put on the pad, Not a lot of jumping around, no grabbing of the panel. It's nice and smooth. We have a nice smooth ride across the panel, but yet not too much where it was hydroplaning and wouldn't be effective. And as you can see, this turned out just the way we wanted to. A little bit of hazing to take care of with the polish step, but it's coming up. Moving right along, we have much of the same on the hood, some marring, some love marks, and some deeper imperfections, maybe perhaps from removing snow with the wrong type of tool. I'll have to go over all that stuff with the owner when he comes to pick it up. I usually have the owner stay with me for about 45 minutes when he comes pick up the car. We go over a lot of things, what I did to the car, how it has changed since then. Okay, the hood is cut, and for that matter, I went around and cut the whole vehicle. All we have to do is now zero in on clarity. So it's funny to think that we corrected the swirling and the micro marring on here by making even more scratches with the compound and the pads. So now we have to bring out the clarity and remove the marks we made with the compound and the pads, and we're going to use a finishing polish. We're going to use a foam pad, and that's going to be our next step. In a lot of my videos where I'm polishing, I often mention that I clean or blow out the pad in between every pass, every panel. And it doesn't matter if it's foam or wool. So here I can give you a good example as to why. The pad should be clean where each fiber can work individually as one. When you get a lot of polish compound on there, they clump together. It changes the way the pad cuts and is what I believe is less effective as you go on without cleaning the pad. So I have a dedicated pad cleaner I use for both wool and foam pads. I use both the brush, agitate it a little bit, loosen up that compound the best I can, and then follow up with forced air. Now, as you can see, these fibers are starting to separate once again. They are working individually. You'll get a more consistent cut, and you will reduce any chance of marring as you continue polishing. The same also happens to apply to microfiber pads, and especially more important for this type of pad here, the Eurofiber 50/50, where you have half of the fibers that serve as cutting and the other half that serve as polishing fibers. And when they get matted with compounds and polishes, they bind together and then cannot work individually. So again, between every pass, clean them off. Have a dedicated pad cleaner, a brush, and if it's available, forced air. Now, as you can see, it's cleaned off. They're not matted together. Each fiber can work on its own. It will give you a consistent, safe cut. Cleaning the pads between every pass will also be in play for foam pads as well, but for a different reason. We're not talking about fibers, we're talking about foam. And the compounds and polishes can get into the pores. Some perforated foam pads, some not. Either way, the compound will work its way into the foam, make it less effective, and when it clogs the pores, it's less airflow, and the pad will then run hotter. Just to give you a quick visual, just to help those just starting out understand what I'm talking about, this is a wool pad here, and an up-close look will show each fiber. A clean pad, they are working independently. They are working as a team on the same pad, but you get a more consistent, cooler cut or polish if they are clean and working independently of one another. And here you can get a quick close-up as to what each fiber looks like. Very interesting, and I'm going to do a dedicated video on all different types of pads, what they're used for, what they look like up close, their purpose, and what they go well with best when it comes to a compound or a polish. Now let's take a look when the pad is clumped up. caked with polish and compounds, and you'll see the difference. Okay, now as you're using the pad and it gets more and more saturated with the compound or polish you're using, plus the clear that it's pulling off, it clumps together. It clumps together, it pulls the fibers together, they no longer work independently, and you lose your consistent cut. So, again guys, clean out your pads in between every pass. When it comes to the Eurofiber 50/50 pad, when we look at that up close, what I did here was I just blew out the pad with no pad cleaner, no chemical, and you can see, now it did separate the fibers, decent job, but when it comes to, it's still pretty grainy, each fiber. By the way, the black fibers are the polishing fibers, the white are the cutting, and as you can see, it's still quite a bit grainy, so if you added a pad cleaner and then blew it out, it would really prepare the pad for the next round. Alright, so I made one pass, and as you can see, already they are starting to group up. They are no longer working individually, and there goes your consistent cut. Clean out your pads between every pass. Now, as we start to use a foam pad, and this is just after one pass, this really isn't even that bad. The foam starts to accumulate, the compounds, the polishes, and the clear coat that it pulls up, and it starts to absorb it into those perforations or those little pockets, and you can see they're closing up. What that's going to do is it's going to restrict the airflow, the surface temperature, that heat cannot flow and escape, and that will build up and spike the temperatures for the clear coat, which I always say is a no-no. However, if it isn't clumping, and it sometimes isn't all that bad if you're working on some real hard clear coats, that will stop the compound from going into the pad, keep it to the surface, and make a more effective cut. But you really do have to watch out, because what will happen then, it'll start to clump, and then you'll get the pigtails that you often see. It's a balance that's really hard to keep if you don't know what you're doing. So again, I'm going to say, clean out your pad between every pass. All right, back to the car again. I apologize for getting sidetracked here and there, but I really do want to share what I can with you to make you guys successful, have a quick, easy, and damage-free day. So now we're going to work on the B-pillars here. These are black piano finish that are cleared. They're normally softer than clear coat and normally have less of clear layer on top. So we don't need anything aggressive whatsoever, so I pulled out the Griot's Garage 3-inch polisher. Has a real short throat to it and not much power. We don't need much power. If you attach a microfiber polishing pad to it, it will be just enough. Should be the perfect balance of getting rid of those love marks and swirl marks, but leaving behind the protection on that black piano finish. And as you can see, as I bring you in closer, it's the perfect balance of just having enough power to get the job done, but not being too aggressive. I also wanted to show you don't have to break the bank to get the results you're looking for, fantastic results. That polisher is probably under $100 by now. No need to max out the credit card for these expensive token polishers out there. It's ridiculous. So let's get to the taillights and the headlights. We're going to polish out the love marks and the marring from them as well. And I'm just going to stick with the Griot's Garage 3-inch polisher. It's working just fine. And that'll do it. Looks fine. By the way, we're still using the Sonax cut and finish. Just one product all the way through. Just some slight adjustments with the polisher and the pads. No need to overthink it. Keep it simple. And that's going to end today's video. We're going to pick up in the next video with polishing preparation for the coating and the coatings itself and the protection. I really do appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope you get some useful information out of these videos, and we'll see you in the next one.